you
go.
watch his plays over and over.
Oh!
They do, and they will continue to for decades. What if I told you there was an NHL player nobody wanted, who
Damn.
ended up being one of
Nobody?
the silkiest players the league has ever seen? A player so overlooked that he went unselected in 2 drafts and was finally picked 171st overall as a long
Pavel
shot.
Datsyuk.
He was considered too
How you
small,
say his last name?
from too far away, and had stats that were
small.
too normal to matter. Yet, he won 2 Stanley Cups, was
Okay.
an NHL All-Star 4 times,
Okay.
and became a Hall of Famer. Yes,
Hall of
we're
Fame?
talking about Pavel Datsyuk, the stud they
Datsyuk.
call the Magic Man.
Oh!
How did a kid no one believed in
He
rise
got freaky
the
on
stud
buddy.
they call
Hum,
the Magic Man?
hum, oh!
How did a kid no one believed in rise to hockey stardom with 4 Lady Byng trophies, 3 Selkies, and a highlight reel
3
that will never
Selkies?
get old?
What are
To
those?
find out, we have
Bum,
to
bum.
rewind to where
Hold
it all
on, man,
began,
hold on,
and a
hold
highlight
on.
reel that will never get old. To find out, we have to rewind to where it all began,
Bum, bum,
in a
bum.
far-flung
Oh my
corner of
God.
Russia.
I ain't gonna lie. What is hey? Somebody let me know in the comments. What is a silky and what is the other ones he said? I never heard of those. I heard them MVP awards they be getting. I heard the goalie awards. I never heard of what's the silky? Somebody let me know in the comments.
In the 1990s,
Bro, his handle is
Pavel
crazy
Datsyuk
with
was
that
born
stick.
on July 20th, 1978, in Sverdlovsk, Russia, now Yekaterinburg, an industrial city about 1,100 miles east of Moscow. From a young age, he was known by the nickname Pasha, and he faced a good
Pasha.
chunk of hardships growing up. At 15, he lost his mother, a tragedy that shook his world. Hockey became an escape. Hockey became an
That's
escape.
crazy,
But at the
bro.
time, Datsyuk
I
was
can't
far
imagine
from a
my
prodigy.
goddamn mama.
He was shorter and skinnier than his teammates and pretty much was always overlooked by scouts because of his smaller frame. He had above average skills on the ice, sure, but nothing that screamed future superstar. Actually, at one point it seemed Pavel was headed for an undistinguished career in the lower levels of Russian hockey. Even if scouts weren't paying much attention to him on the ice, Pavel's athleticism still found a way to shine. He played a ton of soccer growing up, and that's where his insane vision and feel for sports really showed.
That's
The
where
way
the
he read
handles came
plays,
from.
anticipated movement, and those instincts, yeah, they'd later make him one of the smartest players in hockey. By the mid-90s, he was grinding away in the farm system of Dynamo Yekaterinburg, his hometown club. He wasn't lighting up the stat sheet, and to the hockey world, he was a complete unknown. 17 points in the 95-96 season, just 4 points the following year, 7 points in 1998. There really wasn't much to look at, or at least that's what it seemed. Because his stats didn't pop, Datsyuk went undrafted in 1996 and 1997, passed over by every NHL team not once, but twice. At this point, no one could have imagined that this quiet kid from a remote Russian city would one day be a name mentioned in the same sentence as the NHL greats. Then came a turning point, a stroke of luck and mentorship that kept Pavel's pro hockey dream alive. Russian coach Vladimir Krikunov took over the Yekaterinburg team in 1998 and saw something in the boy with the twitchy walk, as Pavel was called.
The twitchy walk.
Krikunov spotted Datsyuk's raw talent and began to mold him into a more complete player. Under Krikunov's guidance, Datsyuk evolved into an efficient two-way player, sharpening the defensive instincts and puck skills that would later become his trademark. He did start to draw a bit more attention among local hockey circles in Russia, but still, for NHL scouts, Pavel Datsyuk wasn't even on the radar. In 1997-98, Detroit Red Wings scout Håkan Andersson traveled all the way to Moscow and beyond to scout a junior tournament. Officially, he was there to watch a highly touted defenseman, Dmitry Kalinin, but as Andersson sat in the stands, his eyes kept drifting to this little guy on the other team making high IQ plays. That guy was obviously Pavel Datsyuk. In one shift, the young forward caught Andersson's attention with a smart defensive play. A defenseman from his team misplayed the puck at the point, and Datsyuk, though not a big fella, got on his horse, back-checked, dove at just the right moment, and broke up a dangerous 2-on-1 counterattack. It was the kind of play coaches love. Gutsy, intelligent, selfless. Andersson noticed Datsyuk had some offensive flair too. You could tell there was something there, he later said. He had some hands and some sense. It wasn't that Pavel was dominating games, but he showed flashes of skill and hockey IQ that stuck in the scout's mind. Intrigued, Andersson made a second trip to watch Datsyuk that season, and with every shift he watched, the feeling grew stronger. Detroit might have just stumbled into a hidden gem that nobody else had even noticed. The Red Wings scout planned a third look to be sure, but fate stepped in the most unexpected way. As Andersson waited for a flight out of Moscow to see Datsyuk again, a sudden snowstorm grounded the plane. For hours, the plane sat on the tarmac until finally the flight was canceled. Frustrating for Anderson? Most likely, but it turned out to be a blessing in disguise. A scout from the Calgary Flames was booked on the same flight, heading to the very same game to check out this mysterious Pavel Datsyuk.
Damn.
The snowstorm meant the Calgary scout never got to see Datsyuk play, keeping Pavel effectively a secret known only to Detroit. At least he didn't see him, Anderson later said with relief. Mother Nature, it seemed, was a Red Wings fan that day.
That's God. That's God.
Hiding the Russian magician just a little longer. Stocked with his scouting reports and a strong gut feeling, Anderson returned to Detroit and pushed the Red Wings management to take a chance on Datsyuk. General manager at the time, Ken Holland, trusted his scouts' judgment, and when the 1998 NHL entry draft rolled into the later rounds, Detroit was ready to pounce. Names were being called that even die-hard fans didn't recognize. This was the 6th round, after all. Finally, at pick number 171, the Detroit Red Wings selected Pavel Datsyuk.
In the 6th
No
round?
announcement in the arena, no TV cameras, just another seemingly random pick on the draft board. Even Datsyuk himself was in shock. The story goes that a friend told Pavel he'd been drafted by Detroit, and Pavel's initial response was, "Nice joke." He literally didn't believe it until he saw it in the next day's newspaper.
Damn.
For a 20-year-old who had never even attended the NHL draft, it all seemed unreal. Detroit had stolen a player that 29 other teams never even gave a sniff. Apparently none of the Russian scouts saw him, Anderson noted, wondering how Datsyuk slipped through the cracks. The Red Wings gamble on the undersized kid from Yekaterinburg.
Or scouts saw him and just didn't see what he saw. Scouts, come on, you think scouts, not one other scout didn't see him? I think other scouts seen him, they just ain't see what he saw. He
was
saw
met with
something
shrugs
different.
by the rest
Everybody
of the
ain't got the same
Nobody
eye.
even knew who this guy was. After being drafted, Datsyuk didn't rush over to North America either. He stayed in Russia, refining his game, getting better, smarter, and even more dangerous while nobody was watching. The Wings were in no rush, happy to let their secret prospect develop away from the spotlight. It wasn't until 2001, 3 years after his name was called, that Pavel Datsyuk would finally put on the winged wheel logo in Detroit's training camp. And even then, few realized that a magic man had just rolled into town. Not everyone ignored Datsyuk's potential during those years, though. As Pavel's game matured in Russia, whispers about his talent began to spread. Ken Holland started fielding calls from other general managers. One rival GM kept proposing trades to Detroit, suspiciously slipping Datsyuk's name into the package each time. Holland was no fool. He sensed that others were trying to pry away their hidden jewel. He declined every offer. The Red Wings had a feeling about this confidential late bloomer and were committed to seeing it through. And that faith would pay off more than anyone could have imagined. In the fall of 2001, Pavel Datsyuk, now 23, arrived in Detroit's training camp, far from home and speaking little English. To say he walked into a stacked lineup would be an understatement. The Red Wings of the early 2000s were an NHL powerhouse, a who's who of future Hall of Famers. Legends like Steve Yzerman, Brett Hall, Luc Robitaille, Brendan Shanahan, Sergei Fedorov, Nicholas Lindstrom.
Sergei Fedorov. I think I heard that name in the other video, bro. That name is so fire to me. He got to be a good player. I got to watch him, bro. I don't know who he is, but that name
Brett
got
Hall,
me want to watch him.
Luc Robitaille, Brendan Shanahan, Sergei Fedorov,
Sergei
Nicholas
Fedorov.
Lindstrom. The list goes on.
Sergei Fedorov.
That locker room was packed with superstar talent. Detroit would ultimately have 9 Hall of Famers on that 2001
9 Hall of
roster.
Famers?
No one knew it at the time, but young Datsyuk would eventually be the 10th. At first glance, Datsyuk didn't look like a natural athlete, even by early 2000 standards. He was about 5'11" and 180 pounds, with a bit of a slouch to his posture and a pigeon-toed stride. He was shy, kept to himself, and was still learning English. To help him adjust, Detroit's veteran Russian stars Igor Larionov and Sergei Fedorov took Pavel under their wing. Larionov, a high IQ legend, often called the Professor, became a mentor to Datsyuk, guiding him through those early days in North America. Coach Scotty Bowman was happy to leverage the Russian connection. He later noted that Larionov made sure that Pavel was on the right track all the time. On the ice, it didn't take long for Pavel to show off his unique talent. Bowman slotted the rookie on a line with Brett Hall, the Hall of Fame sniper, and a young grinder, Boyd Devereaux. The trio was jokingly nicknamed the 2 kids and an old goat line, Hall, at 37, being the self-deprecating old goat. The chemistry was clear as day. Datsyuk's silky mitts and potent playmaking meshed perfectly with Hall's scoring touch. Hall himself was blown away with what he saw from the new kid on the block. This is a man who played with Wayne Gretzky in the past, yet Brett Hall declared Pavel the sickest player I've ever seen in my life, meant as the highest possible compliment to Datsyuk's skill. Steve Yzerman, the team captain, was equally impressed. Night after night, "He does something special every shift," Yzerman said, noting how even in practice, the Russian skill set would drop jaws. Datsuk's rookie year in 01-02 was mostly about learning the ropes on a veteran team, but what a year it turned out to be. The Red Wings were a juggernaut, and Pavel held his own as a complimentary player, 35 points in 70 games, while showing many flashes of brilliance. In the 2002 playoffs, the kid whom nobody had heard of 3 years prior was suddenly getting regular ice time on the NHL's biggest stage, the Stanley Cup playoffs. He had his ups and downs, even sat out a few games as a healthy scratch to rest near the end of the long season. His ups and downs, even sat out a few games as a healthy scratch to rest near the end of the long season. But when Detroit reached the Cup final, Datsyuk was cracking the lineup. The Red Wings ultimately won the Stanley Cup in June of 2002, and Pavel had his name etched on hockey's holy grail as a champion in his very first NHL season. From an unknown 6th-round pick to a Stanley Cup champion in 1 year, talk about a storybook beginning. Despite being a supporting player on that championship squad, Datsyuk had clearly earned the respect of his teammates. The vets loved the kid's humility and sense of humor that peeked through the language barrier. In one episode during his rookie year, the team decided to prank the quiet new guy. In Edmonton, some of the Red Wings hid all of Datsuk's sticks before practice. A confused Pavel looked everywhere in the locker room. Eventually, he recruited Larionov to ask equipment manager Paul Boye where his twigs went. Boye pointed Pavel to a huge gear bag. When Datsyuk unzipped it to check, out jumped defenseman Steve Duchesne like a jack-in-the-box, scaring the living shit out of Pavel. Datsyuk almost fell over backward in shock as the room burst into laughter. The rookie had been successfully initiated. The guys were laughing. "Oh God," recalled coach Dave Lewis of the prank.
Dave Lewis.
Obviously, it was all in good fun, and it showed that Datsyuk was fitting in just fine with the veteran squad. The quiet kid from Yekaterinburg had earned a place in the Red Wings family. Little did the rest of the NHL know, the joke was really on them. Detroit had added yet another filthy player to an already loaded roster. Pavel Datsyuk was just getting started, and the hockey world had no idea what was coming. After a solid rookie campaign and a Stanley Cup ring on his finger, Datsyuk entered his sophomore season in 02-03 with higher expectations. Detroit fans were excited about this unknown kid who had already shown his absurd bag of tricks. The Magic Man nickname began to circulate, popularized by Red Wings broadcaster Mickey Redmond, because Pavel's deceptive dangling felt like pure wizardry. He could make the puck disappear and reappear on his stick in ways that left defensemen confused and fans delirious. Now it was time to show the rest of the league what he could do. It didn't happen overnight. In fact, Datsuk's second NHL season had some hiccups. He missed 18 games with a knee injury and put up a low-key 51 points with 12 goals and 39 assists. Detroit was shockingly swept in the first round of the 2003 playoffs, with Datsyuk held pointless in that series. Somewhat of an upset, as the Red Wings were Central Division champions that year, with 48 tallies in the W column. Fans wondered if the Magic had stalled, but any doubts would quickly be erased. The real explosion of Datsuk's stardom was just around the corner. In the summer of 2003, franchise icon Sergei Fedorov left Detroit in free agency, opening up a bigger role for Datsyuk at center. The Wings were pretty much saying, "It's your time now, Pav," and he delivered. With more ice time and confidence, Datsuk's creativity blew up. He put up 6 delivered. With more ice time and confidence, Datsuk's creativity blew up. He put up 68 points in 03-04 and earned a trip to his first NHL All-Star game.
I'm keep 100 with y'all, bro.
Opposing
I gotta keep 100 with y'all hockey fans in my comments. I love all of y'all. His handle, he might have bro. I haven't seen nobody with a handle like him, bro. Not Wayne Gretzky, not Guy Lafleur. Not Guy Lafleur. Who else I seen? Nobody. I'm talking about nobody.
And coaches had taken notice that whenever number 13 was on the ice, literally anything could happen. He had a way of stick handling in a phone booth, in the tightest areas, and making elite D-men look like they had just learned to skate. One of his most replayed highlights actually came that year in November of 2003. Any Datsyuk fan, or even hockey fan, knows this one. Pavel pulled off a move so nasty that it would forever bear his name. On a breakaway against Dallas Stars tendie Marty Turco, Datsyuk flew in as if he was going to shoot. Then in one lightning-quick motion, he dragged the puck back and roofed it top bunk as he whizzed by Turco's outstretched glove. It was an absurd tuck.
Ah!
Turco looked like he'd seen a
That's
ghost.
neck.
The Detroit bench went absolute.
I need that 13 jersey. I need that 13 Detroit Wings jersey. I need it. See, I like the handles. See, he just became my favorite. He just became my favorite. Him, obviously Wayne Gretzky, and Guy Lafleur. That's my top 3 right there, all time. Pavel, you see his handles? Is he the greatest handleman of all time, bro? Let me know in the comments. Y'all gotta name some more hockey players with great handles, bro. I gotta see some more of that.
Absurd tuck. Turco looked like he'd seen a ghost. The Detroit bench
Magic
went
Man.
absolutely bananas. Players in disbelief at what
That's
they just
crazy.
witnessed. Longtime broadcaster Ken Daniels
got
claimed
that
it was a
thing on the screen.
Datsyukian Deke, and thus
A
a new
Datsyukian
term
Deke.
entered the hockey dictionary. The Datsyukian Deke, a synonym for undressing a
Ah,
goalie,
that's
or
ho-
anybody really,
Hey, bro,
with
that's-
spellbinding stick handling, was born.
fire.
Night after night, Pavel was filling highlight reels. He could dangle through an entire team, then strip the puck from an opponent a shift later with equal finesse. Fans around the league started tuning into Red Wings games just to catch a glimpse of Datsuk's latest trick. And while his offensive moves were dazzling, what made Datsyuk truly special was that he was just as big a nightmare for the other team when they had the puck. He didn't just beat you on the stat sheet, he'd beat you by stealing your lunch money on the ice. By the late 2000s, Datsyuk was widely seen as the best two-way forward in hockey, a threat in both the O-zone and D-zone. The stats
Easy
back
work.
it up. Once the NHL began tracking takeaways, Pavel dominated the category. From 2005 and 2006 through 2015 to 2016, Datsyuk tallied up 926 takeaways, 190 more than anyone else in that time frame.
Damn.
He led the league in takeaways in multiple seasons by huge margins, turning the act of picking opponents' pockets into art.
Damn, and he was
Opposing
stealing
players
shit.
would be handling the puck, thinking they were safe, and in a
Let me hold
blink, Datsuk's stick would lift theirs and the puck would be gone. He was so sneaky strong with his stick that players often didn't realize they'd been stripped until Pavel was already transitioning the play the other way. It was thievery, plain and simple, but done with such smoothness that you almost had to tip your hat. By 07-08, Datsyuk was at the peak of his powers, and the Red Wings were again the class of the league. That season, Pavel posted a career-high 97 points, tying for the team lead. Detroit won the President's Trophy as the top regular season team, and Datsyuk was a finalist for the Hart Trophy, league MVP, that
Yeah.
year, a nod to his huge impact. Come playoff time, he continued his magic. In the Western Conference Finals against Dallas, Pavel notched his first career hat-trick in Game 3, a performance that helped send Detroit to the Stanley Cup final. There, the Red Wings faced the up-and-coming Pittsburgh Penguins. Detroit's veteran experience prevailed. They won the Cup in 2008, giving Datsyuk his second Stanley Cup championship. Unlike 2002, this time Datsyuk was front and center, one of the team's leading contributors and now a superstar in his own right. The trophies kept piling up. Pavel Datsyuk wasn't just winning, he was dominating awards season. He won the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy 4 years in a row.
What is the Lady Byng? I've been wanting to look this stuff up during the video, but I'm just gonna let y'all, you know what I'm saying, give me knowledge in my comments. But what is the Lady Byng? I need to know what that is. And he didn't win no MVPs?
2006 through 2009, reflecting his combination of high skill and sportsmanship. In 08-09,
Okay,
for example,
sportsmanship,
he had 97 points and only 22 penalty minutes. A true gentleman on the ice. He
A
also
true
began
gentleman
an
on the ice.
unprecedented run.
That's what the Lady Byng trophy is, like sportsmanship and good offense. The Lady Byng.
as the game's
Why they
top
call it
defensive forward, capturing the Frank J. Selke Trophy in 2008,
Okay, that's it.
2009,
Okay, that's the best forward. Is the Silk Trophy. Okay,
capturing the Frank J. Selke Trophy in 2008, 2009, and 2010
Damn.
as the
Back
NHL's
to-
best defensive forward.
Back to
In an
back,
era of great two-way centers, he was the gold standard. Essentially, the NHL's closest equivalent to a shutdown cornerback who could also play quarterback.
Yeah.
Ken Holland said that Datsyuk could have easily chased higher point totals if he wanted to cheat for offense, but he never did. Pavel always prioritized 200-foot play. In Holland's estimation, Datsyuk might score 90 points in a season, but he was worth 30 more points on defense because of all the scoring he prevented. That balance of artistry and accountability
Damn, two-way
made Datsyuk
guy.
uniquely valuable. Few players
He
in
didn't win no
history could bring
MVP?
fans to their feet with a dazzling Deke 1 minute, then make a textbook back check and steal the next. Datsyuk did it routinely, with a quiet efficiency that left coaches grinning and opponents rattled. By the early 2010s, Datsyuk's legend was firmly established. He continued to produce at a high level into his 30s, keeping the Red Wings competitive year after year. Detroit never missed the playoffs in Datsyuk's 14-season NHL career, a testament to his consistency and winning impact. Younger players around the league who grew up watching him would try to imitate his moves in practice. There's a reason you see so many shootout attempts that look just like a classic Datsyuk deke. He inspired an entire generation. In 2007, even as an upcoming veteran, Pavel pulled off yet another play that went viral. He deked through not only one, but two confused Sharks players, causing them to collide with each other while he slipped by untouched. A play so absurd, it looked like something out of a cartoon. Night in and night out, he provided moments of pure hockey joy. Despite all the accolades, Pavel remained the same humble, soft-spoken guy off the ice. He wasn't big on self-promotion or flashy interviews. In fact, his humility became part of his mystery. Fans joke that Datsyuk spoke better with his stick than with words. When asked about his endless highlight reel, he'd often spoke better with his stick than with words. When asked about his endless highlight reel, he'd often flash a shy grin than with words. When asked about his endless highlight reel, he'd often flash a shy grin and with words. When asked about his endless highlight reel, he'd often flash a shy grin and deflect credit to his teammates or simply make a witty joke. In one of his later interviews, aware that YouTube compilations of his moves were popular, Pavel joked in his thick accent, "I hope the YouTube is still working. Nobody forget me." It got a laugh, but beneath it was a genuine modesty, as if he couldn't quite believe people would rewatch his plays over and over. They do, and they will continue to for decades.
Hold on. Hey! But he don't got no MVPs. Hold on, bro.
It got a laugh, but beneath it was a genuine modesty, as if he couldn't quite believe people would rewatch his plays over and over. They do, and they will continue to for decades to come. By 2016, at age 37, Pavel Datsyuk had achieved damn near everything in the National Hockey League. He decided to leave the NHL on his own terms, departing Detroit after the 2015-16 season to return home to Russia and be closer to family. Red Wings fans were sad to see him go, but they understood. Pavel had given them 14 years of pure magic. Fittingly, as he left as one of the franchise's all-time greats, finishing with 918 career NHL points, 314 goals, 604 assists in 953 games, he had also firmly imprinted his name in hockey history. In 2017, the NHL honored him as one of the 100 greatest NHL players of all time during the league's centennial celebrations. An incredible honor for someone who entered the league as a complete afterthought. Datsyuk's hockey journey didn't end when he left the NHL. Even in the Russian KHL, he continued to add to his legend. In his first season back home, he led SKA St. Petersburg to a Gagarin Cup championship in 2017, the KHL's version of the Stanley Cup. The next year, representing Olympic athletes from Russia at the 2018 Winter Olympics, Datsyuk helped his country win gold, a prize that had eluded him in his NHL years. That gold medal also meant Pavel achieved the rare triple gold club status, a Stanley Cup, an Olympic gold, and a World Championship. He won the IIHF World title with Russia in 2012. Even in his late 30s, Datsyuk was showing that his brilliance eclipsed leagues and borders. Even in his late 30s, Datsyuk was showing that his brilliance eclipsed leagues.
He went behind his back.
After a few more
he
years
nasty.
playing
The magic.
for his
He's
hometown
magic
team
man.
in Ekaterinburg, a sweet homecoming to where it all began.
And he is mad, bro. I'm not even gonna lie. He probably the best one I watched. I'm not saying he the best hockey player ever. I'm saying with my eyes, me looking at the screen, watching a hockey player, he the best I ever watched. He the best I ever seen. I ain't gonna lie to y'all, man. I might be over exaggerating,
for
but
his hometown team in Ekaterinburg, a sweet homecoming to where it all began, Pavel Datsyuk finally hung up his skates in 2021,
imagine if he was 6'3",
closing the book
6'4",
on an extraordinary career that spanned 25 years. And then, in 2024, the hockey world gave him the ultimate recognition, induction into the Hockey Hall of Fame.
2024?
It was a first ballot induction, a no-brainer for a player of his impact. In Toronto, at the Hall of Fame ceremony, the once unheard-of kid from Sverdlovsk stood among the immortals of the game. Datsyuk, never comfortable being the center of attention, kept his remarks characteristically humble. Hard to believe. Of course, I feel like I'm lucky boy, he said in his endearing English.
Lucky boy.
Lucky or not, everyone in the hockey world knew who was really lucky.
Oh my god.
The Detroit Red Wings, for finding him.
I ain't gonna lie.
And all of us fans
for
getting to watch his magic for so many years. Pavel Datsyuk's story is the stuff of sports mythology.
Give me
he was
that.
the star player nobody wanted, who went on to dazzle everyone. From a late draft pick who almost slipped through the cracks, he rose to become a 2-time Stanley Cup champion, a 4-time Lady Byng winner, a 3-time Selke winner, one of the few members of the Triple Gold Club, and one of the most beloved and respected players of his generation. His Datsyukian deeks are now legendary, replayed over and over by kids who dream of imitating them.
Fire,
his commitment to defense and team play set a gold standard for what it meant to be a complete player. And his quiet, playful humility, never seeking the limelight, always putting his team first, made him a figure of almost fairy tale admiration. Fans in Detroit still swap stories of Pavel's latest KHL highlight, or reminisce about the time he made a superstar like Joe Thornton or Sidney Crosby look silly with a steal or deke.
Sidney
In
Crosby.
the hockey world,
I've been hearing a lot of Sidney Crosby, and I've been seeing a lot of Sidney Crosby on my timeline. I don't know if I should watch. Let me know in the comments if I should watch Sidney
a near
Crosby.
mythical status, the Magic Man, a player who could pull a rabbit out of his hat on any given shift. In the end, Pavel Datsyuk's journey from unknown to unforgettable is a triumph for every underdog. It's a reminder that talent can be found in the most unlikely places. A reminder to never discount the kid with the clever hands and the big heart just because he doesn't fit the typical mold. The next time a late round pick or overlooked player bursts onto the scene and stuns everyone, hockey fans will nod and smile, thinking of Datsyuk. Because we've seen this movie before. The kid nobody wanted who worked and wowed his way to become a legend. Pavel Datsyuk's story, from the dusty rinks of Ekaterinburg to the Hall of Fame in Toronto, is one that will inspire players and fans for generations to come.
Nah, I'm not even gonna lie to y'all, bro. I love Wayne Gretzky. I love Gila Fly. I love Bobby Orr too. I love Dominic Waugh as well. But I got Pavel, bro. This was crazy. This was insane. Let me know in the comments of some more handlers, bro. I want to know of some more handlers. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments what I should watch next. But I'm going to see y'all next when y'all already know what's going on, man. No cap.